When you're reading a blueprint, you're not looking at a full-size drawing of the building. Instead, everything is scaled down to fit on a page. But how do you go from what's on the paper to the actual size in the real world? That's where the scale comes in. In this video, we're going to break down how to read and understand blueprint scales so you can confidently interpret measurements and bring a project from paper to reality. So, let's start from the basics. What exactly is a scale? Simply put, a scale is the ratio between the measurements on the drawing and the actual size of the structure or object in a real life. On a blueprint, the scale tells you how much smaller the drawing is compared to the real thing. For example, if the blueprint says quarter inch equals 1 foot, it means that every quarter inch on the paper represents 1 foot in real life. This helps condense huge projects onto a more manageable page size. Why is this important? Well, imagine you're building a house. You look at the blueprint and see that a room measures 3 inches wide on the paper. Without knowing the scale, you might think it's 3 feet wide in reality. But if the scale is a quarter inch equals 1 foot, that 3-inch wide room on the paper is actually 12 feet wide in real life. Get the scale wrong, and you could end up with a room that's way too small, or worse, a project that doesn't fit together at all. Let's take a look at some of the most common scales you'll find on blueprints, depending on the type of project. First, for residential projects and most small commercial buildings, the most common scale is a quarter inch equals 1 foot. This scale works well for general floor plans and elevations because it provides enough detail with keeping the overall drawing compact. For larger projects, like commercial buildings or site plans, you'll often see a smaller scale, like 1/8 inch equals 1 foot. This allows architects to fit the entire building or even a multi-story complex onto a single page, though it sacrifices some detail. When you need to show fine details, like cabinetry or window installations, you might see a larger scale, like a 1/2 inch equals 1 foot. These close-up scales are used to give tradespeople a more precise view over how specific elements should be installed. If you're working on a project outside the US, you might come across the metric scale. In these scales, 1 unit on the drawing represents 50 or 100 units in real life, usually millimeters or meters. It's the same concept, just with a different measurement system. Okay, so now that you know what scales are and why they're important, let's talk about the tool that makes reading them easy, the scale ruler. A scale ruler is designed specifically for reading blueprints. It's not like a regular ruler. Each side of the scale ruler is marked for different scales, so you can quickly convert the measurements on the page into real-world dimensions. Let me show you how it works. Say you're looking at a blueprint drawn to a quarter inch equals 1 foot. You simply find the side of your scale ruler marked quarter inch and use that to measure distances directly from the drawing. As you slide the ruler along the drawing, the markings on the ruler will show you the actual length of each wall or room in real-world feet. If the wall measures 2 inches on the drawing with a quarter inch to 1 foot scale, that will inevitably be 8 feet long in reality. Before we wrap up, here are a few pro tips to make sure you're always using blueprint scales correctly. Tip number 1. Always check the scale before you start measuring. Not every page in a blueprint is set with the same scale, so don't assume the floor plan and the detail drawings are to scale. In the same way, double check the scale listed in the title block of each page. Tip 2. Make sure you're using the correct side of the scale ruler. Most scale rulers have several different scales on them, and using the wrong side could throw off all of your measurement. Tip 3. Use larger, close-up scales when you're working in detailed parts of the construction, like custom cabinetry or millwork. These larger scales give you the clarity you need to measure and plan accurately. So, that's a breakdown of blueprint scales. Now, you can look at any scale on a blueprint and confidently translate those measurements into real-world dimensions. Understanding how to use scales is one of the most important skills when reading blueprints, whether you're an architect, a contractor, or a homeowner tackling a renovation. If this video helped clarify blueprint scales for you, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe for more blueprint reading tips and construction tutorials.